Great. Well, I'll move on from that great slide to that great slide. So, HARE Digital, School to Startup. I'm Chris O'Hare. I've done all the intros, already been done for me. Thank you for coming to hear me. So, there's the actual picture that you should see earlier. Me with some gigantic bunny ears, right? That's quite a testament to my brand. Everyone knows me as the guy with the blue bunny. And so today I'm going to give you a quick overview of where I am today, what I'm doing today, and I'll give you some brief tips and advice of how I went from school to startup. So I'm the CEO of a digital agency, HARE Digital, and we mainly focus on the web and app development side of things. We do Internet of Things, cloud infrastructure, digital transformation, and mainly for the industrial sectors such as manufacturing. We also develop our own SaaS products. So if you don't know what SaaS is, it's software as a service. It's basically your own software products. We're based up at the Sussex Innovation Centre, up at the Sussex University campus, if you know it. And we work with, like James said, some great brands, including BMW, Subaru, and even Amazon. So some brands that you wouldn't think that a 3-year-old startup would work with, right? Which is quite an amazing journey. We've also done some cool projects, such as a stolen vehicle tracking system, which I'll show you. And essentially, what that does is a little black box in a car, and then we deal with all the software that communicates with that tracking system. That ended up doing really well. It won Tracking Product of the Year, Security Product of the Year, Best British Product. And if you have any more questions on that, feel free to give me a shout afterwards. I've got a stand out there, and you can come and see me regarding that, and I can show you a little example of it. It's pretty cool. So that's the agency, but I'll give you an overview of my journey, and this is where it began. So I haven't changed much, have I? All right, that's what everyone says. And I always look like my mother, apparently, so if you ever see me and my mum, you'll know that I look quite similar. So the very first days of opening my startup, and I'll kind of describe the skills that I developed that helped me get along from school to startup. But it may not come as a surprise to some of you, but I wasn't very good at school. I was pretty dim in some respects. I mean, even at primary school, I had to go to summer school. So basically, primary school wasn't that bright, and I drifted through secondary school, Blatchington Mill, and I was hoping I was going to get C's. I was that kind of student. And I had a real trouble focusing on what I needed to do. The lessons were boring, and all I wanted to do was do something that wasn't the lessons. And I didn't have any passions either. I wasn't particularly good at anything either. And so I went to sixth form college, didn't really know what I wanted to do, and again, I was nothing special. And I failed most of my A-levels, and I just couldn't get my head around the work ethic when it came to school. I just knew that I had to do something, I just didn't know what. And I was really lost at that point, and this was, I've ruined it now because you've seen it. But there was that real, what am I doing with myself time? And I was at this crossroads where I had no qualifications, really. And I felt a bit hopeless. University wouldn't have had me. And I didn't know what job I wanted to do. And, am I stupid? Can I do this? So I applied for City College at the time. It's now Met. They've changed the branding of the college. And I found that they had a course that didn't have any exams in, and I hated exams at the time. Couldn't stand them. I thought that was the main reason why I felt stupid. But I only had to focus on one subject, and there was no exams at the end of it, so I was like, great. So I arrived for my first day at school, or college at that time. And I sat down in the classroom, and it was clearly not stereotypically bright students in this, right? They were there for their second chance too. But it taught me one of my first lessons that I'm going to tell you about. There's going to be several lessons throughout this presentation that taught me how to progress in my career today. And the first one was momentum. And if you can imagine it, the classes were 9 to 5, pretty much every day, which is really powerful. You don't understand being in somewhere every day, 9 to 5. And we always had a teacher on hand, and our computers were laid out in a giant horseshoe. So you couldn't procrastinate, you couldn't go on Facebook or anything. In fact, Facebook wasn't really out then. And you had to help other people, and it felt very organised in a way that college or school hadn't done. So I found that one big element of why it was so helpful in creating momentum for me was that the courses were broken down into these tick boxes, right? And what I needed to achieve, and how I can get a pass, and I could see all these tick boxes that I needed to do, and if I wanted a merit or distinction, I could just go through and tick them and get them done. And that was the first lesson. It was breaking things down. If anyone knows problem solving, it's breaking the thing down. And at the time, I didn't really know what to do, but this course had taught me that if I wanted to gain momentum, that I needed to break down what I needed to do into subsequent grades. So a pass, and I want to get to a pass, and then I do a merit, and then a distinction. And then as I was going through it, it was giving me that feeling I could do it, and it was gradually becoming harder. And what I've done is I've created a visualization of how I started to see these skills fitting together. And it helped me understand the effort needed. So, for example, momentum for me was breaking down your task into these tiny chunks that can make something easy, and then trick yourself into working and gaining that momentum. So the next part of my journey was university. And there was this time where I was writing up my UCAS application, and none of my family had been to university. I didn't come from a particularly academically bright family. And I wasn't sure that I was capable of being able to do this until my teacher said, just apply. And I said, but there's exams. And I was like, I can't do the exams. And she was like, don't worry, just apply. So I did, and I ended up leaving City College, or Met now, with a triple distinction and highest grade in my class, all down to the fact that it was a bunch of tick boxes, that if I just ticked all these things, I could get it done. So I did, and I ended up getting a scholarship to Sussex University too. Bearing in mind, this was 2 years after I'd failed everything. I'd have been applied to Sussex University with highest grade in my class and gone on to be more than I was. So it was that momentum. It was started that momentum. So what I found was when I was at university, I lost that 9 to 5 structure. There wasn't that idea of being able to told what to do in a certain amount of time, and the tick boxes had disappeared. And I needed a new way of setting a structure for myself. And therefore, I decided that if I had to get something finished for a time, then what I could do is I could work towards that time, and that time is a deadline, right? That deadline basically meant that no matter what, it had to be finished then, right? So all this perfectionism that I did in the past of just doing it, everything so that I didn't have to worry about how unperfect it was, I just got it done, got it finished, and made sure that it was actually completed, right? Quite often you'll see a lot of people, they just don't get things finished. And it's this thing of time as, it could be done at some point in the future. Whereas I made it very clear that if I had to get something finished, it had to be done by a deadline. So here I've got the slide where I'm showing you that the momentum's going up towards the deadline to get it finished. And I eventually graduated, so I got through that as well, and I got a first-class degree. So here we go. I had no qualifications at the start of this journey. I felt relatively dim. I was a kid that went to summer school, but now, look at me, I've got a first-class degree. That's insane. And I felt like I'd reached the top of the summit and I had the best grade possible that I could have hoped for. And all I was focused on was my journey. And I felt like that was giving me this newfound confidence that I then went off into web development. So I managed to get a job freelancing in web development straight after university. And that was to make a tracking system, which is what I'll show you. But it was a really cool project. Now, that had given me that confidence to start creating my own career path of where I wanted to go, what I wanted to do, and give me that essence of myself. And here I've got the slide for confidence where you can see that you're going downhill and you feel like, I can do this, and it's creating that feeling of I can tackle any problem. And when you feel like you've got that confidence, it gives you this newfound sense of freedom as well. So when you've got confidence, you could do anything. You could be anyone. Until I decided I had a few years of being a freelancer, doing these web development projects. I had an idea. So he's back as a kid again. But this time, I wanted to be an entrepreneur. And I was minding my own business until this idea popped up, and I was like, I could do this. I could run a company. What? I've run a company? That's insane. But I felt like my confidence had grown because of momentum and the deadlines that I was achieving, and then it was growing all that confidence. And I had this grand plan to grow a company. So I had some ideas, and I went to a company, and they were like, yeah, you could do this. You develop this product, we'll buy it off you. So I did that, but I had no money. So what do you do when you've got no money and you need a team? So I thought, how do I get cheap developers to help me build this product? Students, right? Students are cheap. So I applied for part-time masters in IT and business, and I started networking with students who wanted to work and wanted experience in working in a tech company. And at the same time, I applied for a Startup Sussex competition. And they basically helped coach me into how to write a business plan, how to formulate an idea, and whether it was worth doing. The thing is, I ended up winning it, right? So there's me, I'm an entrepreneur now, I'm winning a competition. But by the way, that's Bianca from The Apprentice at the time. She was just she was like third in The Apprentice or whatever. And she was massive compared to me, I'm quite sure, right? So she was like 6 foot. So everyone was saying how the size difference was immense. But, and that was in the Argus as well, which was fun. But I had this 10K. I was like, wow, I've got all this money now. What am I going to do with it? So I put it into the biggest office I could afford. I said, give me an office for a year, I'll do that. And all I had to worry about then was filling it and getting work, obviously. So there's my office, and I wanted to fill it. So I had all these students who wanted to work with me. So I hired a load of funded interns through the various schemes because I had no money, and a load of volunteers who wanted work experience. There they are. So there are a load of interns, a load of volunteers, all working with me, all trying to learn and create something and get it off the ground. And bearing in mind, I only had them for about 3 months. But people started to see and hear about this Blue Bunny company, and we started to receive a few project requests, and it gave people that impression that we were bigger than what we are, and that we could actually fulfill projects. So a lot of companies don't work with companies they don't think they can fulfill the project. I knew we could. It's just a matter of convincing them. And it worked. I had a load of projects, and by the September, because it was 3 months, I was hiring more senior staff. And in our first year, we grew 400%. So it went from no money to basically 200,000, which is pretty, for a first year, it was pretty all right. And what that started to do is get us out there. And we were then being recognised. So I had won the Graduate of the Year at the Sussex Business Awards, and then the following year we were the finalists for the most promising new business. And people started hearing about us. And what it showed to me was that I needed to show people how great we are, to show people that we can do these things. So one of my final skills is that you need to show off. And it's not in the arrogant way. It's just to show people that you can actually do things. You need to let everyone know that you can fulfill a project. You can have that confidence to finish the project and then to show it off. And you can see that cycle in everything I did. If you looked at most of the journey, you could see that there was mini cycles within a bigger cycle, from creating the momentum to go up the mountain, to stand at the top, finishing your deadline, and then feeling easy going down with confidence. And at the bottom, I was standing there going, wow, I did that. I looked at that, and I finished it, and I could do that again. And it creates this cycle that just gets bigger and better. And that's kind of what I wanted to bring to you in a short and easy way of showing my journey of a kid that relatively didn't believe in himself, that wasn't academic at all. I consider myself academic now, but at the time, I had no belief, to a point where I had these fundamental skills that each part of the journey had taught me, until I got to a point where I actually believed in myself. And now I know we can do anything and everything. And that's it. Thank you.